Hey, what's going on? Ryan here with Intersection Records, and we are talking the one and only New York rock band, Blue Oyster Cult. Blue Oyster Cult was conceived in the mid-60s by guys out of Long Island, many of which went to the University of Stony Brook. Sandy Pearlman is a guy who became their manager, became kind of a prime figure in getting them record contract and helping with some songwriting, helping organize the band, helping get them big and stuck around for a long time in their career all the way into the 80s. Let's talk about Blue Oyster Cult and this fantastic group. You know, again, Blue Oyster Cult, obviously, it's kind of a punchline in the sense with some folks about, you know, Don't Fear the Reaper off their 1976 hit, and probably their biggest hit, their most famous hit. They're way more than that. And we're going to talk a little bit why. We're going to focus on 4 or 5 great albums. In fact, a couple more than that. Again, in 1967, a band featuring Buck Dharma, Albert Bouchard, and Alan Lanier form a band called Soft White Underbelly. I think Winston Churchill called the Italian army the Soft White Underbelly. These guys attended Stony Brook University. Sandy Pearlman was the manager and producer. He got them an electro record contract in 1968. They did some demos. Didn't work out. In fact, a couple times they had record deals, went in the studio, and just really couldn't put it together. You know, upon playing at the Fillmore East in New York, they bombed and got critically slammed, and they changed their name. They changed their name to a few different band names, including Oxaca, Stalk, Forest Group, Santos Sisters, amongst others. Terrible names, right? Finally, in the first incarnation, we have Buck Dharma, Albert Bouchard, Alan Lanier, Les Bronstein on vocals, along with Jeff Cagle, and bassist Andrew Winters. You know, Eric Bloom is then hired as an acoustic engineer, and he ends up becoming one of their guitar players and ultimately singers, and he's still in the band to this day. Pearlman ultimately gets them an invitation to see Clive Davis at Columbia Records, and in 1972 they get their big break and they release their first record. By this point, Winter leaves and Albert Bouchard's brother Joe joins in. So we have the lineup now intact with Joe Bouchard on drums. And that's the classic lineup of Buck Dharma, Albert and Joe Bouchard, Alan Lanier, and Eric Bloom. You know, moving on to what we call the black and blue era, the black and white era. It's famous for these 3 records. This is the debut. Look at that artwork, how cool that is. You know, this album is amazing. You know, this is heavy rock. This is almost kind of like biker music. It's heavy, it's grungy, but it's also filled with some satire and some humor. Highly recommend this one. It opens up with Transmaniacal MC, which is incredible. I'm on the Lam. Then came The Last Days of May. Just amazing. Stairway to the Stars. These are all songs that to this day they still perform live. You flip the album over. Screams. She's as Beautiful as a Foot, right? Cities on Flames with Rock and Roll. The next year, in 1973, in February, Tyranny and Mutation comes out. Look at that cover. Again, this is what they call the black and white era. These first 71 to 75. This thing is absolutely amazing. The Red and the Black, Screaming Dizbusters, Hot Rails to Hell, Teen Archer. I mean, this is just fantastic. Produced by Murray Krugman and Sandy Pearlman. You know, again, 1973. This thing is fantastic. All the way through. Every single song. Highly recommend these records. And then probably my favorite, certainly of the early period, is Secret Treaties. Secret Treaties comes out in 74. Okay? This record. This thing is unbelievable. Career of Evil. Alan Lanier's dating Patti Smith, who ultimately comes out with the song Dancing Barefoot and kind of a punk rock he's dating her. She gets a writing credit on that song. In fact, she gets more than one writing credit in their career. Dominance and Submission, Unbelievable. Harvester of Eyes and Astronomy. Subhuman. I mean, this is one of the best heavier rock records of the 70s. It's not just the best Blue Oyster Cult record. This album is fantastic, track by track. Secret Treaties, highly recommended material. Getting back into some of my notes here. Everybody sings in this band, so everybody's a singer. Everybody's a writer. And now we're kind of left with Buck Dharma and Eric Bloom in the new lineup. I like the lineup now, but we'll talk about that later. Everybody sings and everybody writes here. In 1975, they put out a fantastic live album called On Your Feet or On Your Knees. It's their highest charting record. It goes gold, sells over 500,000 copies. Highly recommend that. And then, of course, in 1976, their famous record, Agents of Fortune, comes out in May of 76. This says Don't Fear the Reaper, goes to number 12 in the charts. They're now a headlining band. This Ain't the Summer of Love is another song on this record. They're a headlining band, you know. They started off opening for the Byrds and Mahavishnu Orchestra and Alice Cooper, playing theaters. They're an arena band by now. And certainly going forward in the 70s, with 1977 Spectres, which has Godzilla on it, it's another gold record. They're using laser light shows. They're bringing out the Godzilla, mascot during their shows with lasers and smoke and so forth. 78 sees another live album, Some Enchanted Evening. 79's Mirrors. These are all fantastic albums. And it's, these albums are diverse in the sense that there's a lot going on. If one song isn't quite your cup of tea, the next one's completely different. 1980 sees Cultosaurus Erectus, a heavier record. Highly recommend that record. They do their famous Black and Blue tour with the Ronnie James Dio reformation of Black Sabbath, and they go out. Sandy Pearlman's the manager at this point of Sabbath as well, and they famously don't get along on that tour. On Cultosaurus Erectus, check out the album cover of Cultosaurus Erectus. I saw it the other day in the record store, and I should have bought it. It's so cool. Moving on to probably one of their most famous, one of their best records is Fire and Unknown Origin. This was released in June of 81. This has Burning for You, I'm Burning for You. The title track's amazing. Joan Crawford is amazing. Veteran of the Psychic Wars is amazing. This is a fantastic album. Look at that cover. How cool is that, right? Hear that wind outside. We're going to have a big storm tonight. Fire of Unknown Origin. The band starts to splinter. Things are changing in the 80s. Club Ninja comes out in 85. Imaginos, which is an Albert Burchard album that took 8 years to work on. I think Sandy Pearlman definitely had something to do with that album as well. It really wasn't even supposed to be a Blue Oyster Cult record, and they threw the Blue Oyster Cult name on it. you know, again, taking 8 years to finish a record. It's a sci-fi kind of themed album. You know, the band moves into the new millennium with Curse of the Hidden Mirror. It's Alan Lanier's final record. You know, Rudy Sarzo ends up joining in on bass. That's when I first saw them and was blown away, like in 2008, by this band. I've seen them 4 or 5 times. In fact, if you look through my history on my videos, there's a video of Don't Fear the Reaper that's kind of cool from last year. They're most recent. So after that 2001 record, Curse of the Hidden Mirror, we thought that we weren't going to get any more Blue Oyster Cult. In fact, Richie Castellano joins the band, starts as a sound guy, and fills in for people, and ends up joining the band on first bass and then guitar. And ultimately, in 2020, they put "And the Symbol Remains" out. This is a good record. This is a really cool record. That Was Me is a cool song. Box of My Head, Edge of the World, The Return of Saint Cecilia. The current lineup is Eric Bloom, Buck Dharma on guitars and keyboards, Richie Castellano on guitars and keyboards, Danny Miranda on bass, and Jules Randino on drums. I recommend this record. At least take a listen to it. Go to Spotify or purchase this thing. It's really cool. You know, they got in the studio, you know, even through pre-pandemic to play as a band. You know, they don't all live together anymore, and it's hard to do a record, and it's expensive to do a record, but you know, Bloom insisted that they get in and track this album out live together and then build from there. I highly recommend Secret Treaties, Fire of Unknown Origin, Mutation, the first record, Cultosaurus Erectus. I mean, these are great records. This is a band that's much more famous than their 3 big hits, Burning for You, Godzilla, and you know, The Reaper. They are excellent. Check them out. Check out my channel. Subscribe to my channel. We do shows every day or as much as we can. I want to thank everybody for subscribing recently. Peace out. See you later.